We're going to have a lot of triggers in today's video. So I guess you could say this is my trigger warning. See what I did there? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another legacy video, and Kevin has an absolutely crazy idea today that I am absolutely in love with. We are going to be doubling up our triggers with Delney Streetwise Lookout. Before we get into that, let me say that today's video is sponsored by Gold Sabertooth. If you liked the tokens you got from me at MagicCon Atlanta, the art was done by Gold Sabertooth, who is now doing an awesome Kickstarter campaign featuring a bunch of really cool playmats and sick token art. As you can see, as of the time of recording, there are already $19,210 pledged towards a $2,000 goal. So we are crushing it already. If you are interested in some really cool playmats, and you can start to see the art filtering in here for all sorts of awesome things featuring many legacy and CEDH high-powered cards like Kinnan and Atali and Primeval Titan and Urza Lord High Artificer, please consider checking out and backing this Kickstarter. There will be a link in my video description. So let's start by talking about Delney Streetwise Lookout. I'm playing a little bit of this in Commander. Creatures you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. So there is a pseudo unblockability aspect to this creature, which is cool. No, Marktide Regent getting in the way of your stuff. No Barrogoyf stabilizing the board at the last minute. But more importantly, if an ability of a creature you control with power 2 or less triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. This entire deck is built around one interaction, that between Reckless Pyrosurfer and Delney. So, Reckless Pyrosurfer is landfall. This creature gets battlecry, and if you weren't around for, I'm second guessing whether it was Scars or the set after it that battlecry was introduced. Hold on, this is important. Yeah, it was Mirrodin Besieged. You weren't around for Mirrodin Besieged. Battlecry is whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And importantly, each instance of Battlecry triggers separately. So, if you have a fetch land and a Reckless Pyrosurfer, you fetch, you get 2 instances of Battlecry, and your entire team gets +2/+0. Well, what happens when Delney gets involved? So, Delney and Reckless Pyrosurfer. You play a land. Landfall triggers twice. You have 2 instances of Battlecry. You fetch. You get 2 more instances of Battlecry. You go to combat. You have 4 instances of Battlecry, which trigger twice. So, with 1 fetch land and a Reckless Pyrosurfer and a Delney, you get +8/+0 on your entire team. And this is the interaction that this deck is built around. Now, when Kevin originally submitted the idea, they thought that crop rotation would fit into this deck. And my response to that, having thought about the deck list for a while, is I don't think that that works. I don't think you want to be in green, and I'll explain why. So most of the landfall things in green look something like this, and they generate permanent +1/+1 counters from things like Scythecat Cub and Bristly Bill, right? Well, Delney's bottom ability only works if the creature has power 2 or less. So as soon as you put that first +1/+1 counter on those creatures, it stops working. And similarly, once you scale up Tifa's power, if you're trying to play Tifa Lockhart with landfall stuff, that doesn't work either. So I think the overall result of putting crop rotation in your deck is you actually become a worse Delney deck. So I focused on Delney in my deck building here. And Kevin sent me an initial list of things that are kind of cute with Delney, with Ocelot Pride and Guide of Souls. Well, guess what else has power 2 or less? Ajani does. Voice of Victory does. So we have a Voice of Victory that can attack, generate 4 tokens, And then we can do something like throw all of those tokens with Goblin Bombardment. Or we can attack with Aphelia, blink 2 separate things, and really clear out combat. We can double up our Amped Raptor triggers and absolutely go wild. So I have built this deck as sort of a Delney Boros energy deck that is really leaning in on Delney. This is not, hey, there's a 1 of or 2 of Delney that we are throwing in the deck for fun. No, this entire deck is built around this card. We can play a fine and solid game of Magic without it, but we're going to go crazy whenever this card is actually in play. In talking about the green real quick, I think the green would make the mana pretty difficult as well. I don't even know that I want to max out on the full 4 Wastelands in this deck. And I don't know that I want more than 1 ETB tapped land in this deck either, because we do want to play 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop every time. I could maybe go up to a 23rd land at the cost of like 1 Felia or 1 Goblin Bombardment. I could maybe consider a Chrome Mox or 2 or a Lotus Petal or 2 in this shell, but this feels like a really solid starting point. As far as the sideboard goes, I'm going to try Clarion Conqueror in this deck. This is something that can stop most of what is going on with the various One Ring decks. So in playing against the Mystic Forge deck right now, the Null Rods are great, but there's still Karn, there's still Tezzeret. Clarion Conqueror says no to the One Ring and Tezzeret and Karn all at the same time, while also just being a reasonable sized body that you could board in versus, say, a tempo deck that has Tamios in it. It can trade with a lot of the creatures, it can block Tameo creature, it can stop your opponent from activating clues or activating the Tameo Planeswalker. I think there's a lot to like here. And I am very, very much targeting the One Ring Mystic Forge decks right now. They are all over leagues and performing very, very well. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and hop into some Magic here. Folks, if you need some Magic cards, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. They're awesome. I'm going to be selling them a ton of cards in MagicCon Atlanta this weekend. I am leaving tomorrow, and I am very excited to see them. And remember, if you order online, promo code ThrabenU will save you a little bit on your order, and you always get free shipping. I am really excited for this one. I am going to put a lot of triggers on the stack, and it should be fun. Let's battle. Damn, this deck is sweet. This is an incredibly good low-to-the-ground deck that can do some disgusting things with energy. I have a lot of different ways that I can play this hand. Unless my opponent leads on something like a Cloud Post that I can just wasteland, I'm pretty likely to just play Guide of Souls on 1 here. And that is still true. And we're going to have to figure out what this Bloodstained Mire represents. It could just be some blue-black deck, and it is a flex slot fetch land. Opponent keeps their card on top. Rixus. That's a brainstorm after making the land drop. So does my opponent just have a fatal push that they are going to end up firing off immediately, or a thought seize? And they know that prior to the brainstorm? Yes, that is what's happening. Opponent says no to Felia. I think I'm into attempting to turn off counter spells here, because my opponent didn't remove my creature immediately. So there's a fair chance that counter spells are in their hand. It doesn't seem to be the case if Voice of Victory just resolved like that, but that was my initial read on the situation. We could just be playing against a Grixis control deck and seeing another Bloodstained Mire. That is currently my guess. A Goyf. That's annoying. I can potentially fly over that. Man, Amped Raptor hitting Delney would be hot here. I'm gonna go ahead and fetch. I'll just pick up another Plateau. And I'm gonna fire off an Amped Raptor. We'll resolve our Guide of Souls trigger first. Make sure we have plenty of energy. Goblin Bombardment. Hell yeah. So I am good to attack here with Voice of Victory. I just have to stack my triggers correctly. We're going to put the Guide of Souls trigger on bottom, resolve the Voice of Victory trigger, which will give me 2 energy and 2 life immediately. Now I will go ahead and do this on Voice of Victory. Say yes, put those there. My opponent can now block a warrior token. And when that happens, I will just Goblin Bombardment and throw that warrior at their face. My opponent will take 4 damage here. And now do I wasteland them off of red? I can play 2 Voice of Victories next turn if I don't. 2 Voice of Victories is pretty sweet. Let's sack that warrior token. I think I do try to bottleneck my opponent on mana. I guess I have some questions about whether or not I am supposed to just block and sack when this hits me here. 3, 4, 5, 6, theoretical lethal. I think I'm fine with block and sack. So I can mark first strike damage on this, and then throw that creature at your face. And opponent can dig to try to find some outs here. I have to get rid of my Voice of Victory. Delney doubling up Voice of Victory triggers would be insane. Yeah, Narset. Alright, that is a fatal push on Voice of Victory. Bombardment. Target your face. Throw this. Opponent's at 7. This is a large creature at this point, unfortunately. So this is worth 1. Ooh, that's a Force of Will. That's very scary. I think I have to let my opponent hit me, unfortunately. I'm not quite in range to easily burn my opponent out here. This one could slip away. That's a lot of cards. A Tamiyo and a Brazen Borrower there. Not great for me. Opponent chooses Brazen Borrower. Has a Tamiyo too. And a Sholdred's Edict. Okay. That is awful. I can play this and then my opponent can just Brazen Borrower it out of play. Alright, well, there's a Voice of Victory. There's a second Voice of Victory. Opponent gets access to red mana again. I tried to cut them off of that earlier. Tamiyo investigates. If I block and throw one of these, Brazen Borrower just bounces the other and I don't actually get anywhere. So I'm taking another hit for 5. My opponent has undone 10 points of damage. I am very much an aggro deck. There's a Bowmasters. That's not the worst, but it's a lot of bodies. I'm on Delney. Delney double Voice of Victory triggers. Let's fucking go. Alright, that's happening. One's got more. Bowmasters is fine. They've just got to do it now because of my Voice of Victory. So I'm at 10. Mountain is not what I'm looking for. I think I am going to take... Oop, that's not what I wanted to do. I think I'm going to take 1 redraw immediately, even at the cost of a Bowmaster trigger. That's fine. I think I'm going to try to believe in Amped Raptor here. That is not what I am looking for. I'll just say no to that. So I'll go ahead and send in. Create 2 friends that are attacking. That's fine. Then I'll bombardment, finish off that. But this is a just very bad situation. Trying to get Amped Raptor to run hot there. Opponent investigates. I think I gotta stop this. I think I'm going to block. Not gonna bother with the first strike damage. Just throw at Bowmasters. Then I can cycle the other Sunbaked Canyon if need be. Blue token is cracked. My opponent can get the Planeswalker here, which is disastrous. I think my opponent is fully stable in this game now. Yep, there it is. So we get Planeswalker Tamiyo. So now my Voice of Victory tokens and such are just actively bad. Oh gosh, there is more. Alright, I lose the other Voice of Victory on top of all of that. Yeah, if not for the lifelink, this game is over, but why you put the card in the deck, right? Oof. Surveil first. No, absolutely not. Take a redraw. I mean, that's a start. That's uncounterable. So we will go ahead and attack Tamiyo. These are going to come into play. Attacking Tamiyo. This has gone better than expected, honestly. Because now I can Goblin Bombardment these away and kill the Tamiyo. Okay. So you're telling me there's a chance. Kaito? Kaito, sure. Kaito has hexproof during their own turn. They're going to stun my creature. That buys a lot of time. I need to just rip hot off the top. This hits planeswalkers, right? And I have energy? Hell yeah. 2 at Kaito. Everything is okay. Oh, let's talk about triggered abilities. So with Tamiyo, I had triggers and they had triggers. Active players, triggers are put on the stack first, and then non-active players. So that's why the Tamiyo ability resolved, and then these did not shrink. Looks like my opponent probably has counter... No, they're a second main phase hipster. That's fine, too. I am at 8. All right. Really wish that this could attack this turn, so that I could just fling little tokens at people. Next turn, I can clean things up. I think I just need to take out the creature that has the highest power to keep my life highest in the short term. And then hopefully I attack next turn, kill Bowmasters and Orc Army token, and I'm good. The disaster scenario here is if my opponent has another Kaito, which does not appear to be the case. Alright, so probably like lands and counterspells over there. Sure. Send in with Voice of Victory, trigger, get my opponent for 3, bombardment, an Orc Army token, bombardment, a Bowmasters directly. We're going to hold this for Pyrosurfer. Baleful Strix is solid, but does not line up well versus Voice of Victory. It's the redraw here that can matter a lot. Notably, other than counterspells, it's also possible my opponent has red cards like Lightning Bolt. I did cut them off of red, and it does not seem like red is a major part of their deck. Wasteland is fine. I think that's fine too. That just goes down to 3 immediately. Yeah, that's not a problem. I can clear both of these. Cling to dust, sure. Galvanic Discharge. Yup. We'll send that at Narset. Take out Narset, go to Punchies, send on in, trigger, bombardment at Baleful Strix, throw a warrior token. Opponent takes some damage. I'll throw another warrior token, and we'll keep holding this fetch land. I don't believe we're still in this. It is possible that it is correct to not use Galvanic Discharge on the Narset there, and I am just supposed to hold it for a future threat and take out Narset via combat damage. But it feels kind of like this is a race. I think my opponent is supposed to cling to dust again. Land drop. They're just passing the turn. Now they are an end step hipster, taking out Galvanic Discharge. That is drawing them a card. Hey, what if you just drew a Thoughtseize or a Tamiyo? You can't play that now. You can play your Brainstorm, though. This floating white mana that I had is not scary. Oh, baby. There is a Reckless Pyrosurfer. So whenever the land enters, I get an instance of Battlecry. So there is an instance of Battlecry. I will fetch. I will have another land enter. I will get an instance of Battlecry. I will go to combat. I will send in with my creatures. We're going to put the Battlecry triggers on bottom. Mobilize 2. Battlecry. Battlecry. -1. We won that game. We won that game. Let's fucking go. Wow, I did not expect that. We were so far behind. I forget exactly how much. I know my opponent hit us with the Goyf at least 2 times. It might have been more. Kevin, we did it. So going into this next game, I've got a couple of different directions I can take this. I conceptually kind of like Clarion Conqueror as something that shuts off Tamiyos and Clues and Narsets as well, and Kaitos for that matter. And I think I can think about additional removal as well. I don't know how to sideboard. Guide of Souls Ocelot Pride is stupid, but Ocelot Pride is an X1 that dies to Bowmasters. I could go down on X1s. Amped Raptor is good enough value that I don't think I go down on that. I could just sub a 3-drop for 3-drop here. I think that's reasonable. Delney is best when you build up multiple permanents, and my opponent is trying to 1-for-1 me. I think I like this. I want to trim Ocelot Pride for Path to Exile. I think just answering my opponent's Goyfs is a huge deal. Most of the rest of their stuff doesn't matter too much. I'll still path to exile a Tamiyo if it happens. I'm thinking about cutting more for 2 Delneys. I think I'm going to keep some Ocelot Prides and just be okay with having a few less copies of Ocelot Pride, especially on the draw. This is an okay opening hand. I don't think it's better than an okay, but Wasteland is pretty solid at setting my opponent back. My hand's a lot worse without Reckless Pyrosurfer. Oh, sure. Nice. Given how many lands I do have, I think I am okay making that decision and making it a little bit longer until my opponent can get to their powerful 3-drops. Alright, that's a basic. So my opponent can't get Wastelanded off of that, but that does not tap for 2 of their colors. That is a shuffle. And Reckless Pyrosurfer does have haste. So the turn it comes down, it's going to be worth 2 damage, and then it will be worth a very large amount of damage after that. Tide of Souls in play successfully. Alright, cool. That's not something like a Baleful Strix that is clogging up the ground, so I'm probably getting in for at least 3 damage next turn. Unless I just want to preemptively play Goblin Bombardment. I try to play Reckless Pyrosurfer the same turn that I play a fetch land. Alright, now opponent has all 3 colors. What is this? Oh, it's Fatal Push. Ooh, yeah. Very into this. So this is just 2 bodies. 0 bodies. Got a Tamiyo for our trouble, though. Totally happy with that. Sure. Now that I don't have another creature, this is significantly worse. I wonder if I don't play a land this turn and I play next turn. Play a land next turn after I play another Reckless Pyrosurfer. I think I'm into that. I'm now thinking about whether or not I'm playing around Orcish Bowmasters. I think I am. If I miss 2 damage, I miss 2 damage. But the potential of this next turn with Swords to Plowshares support is just so high. I'll eat that. 18. Opponent only has 2 cards. This is indicative of either Kaito or a Bowmaster. I'm going to go ahead and block here. And if my opponent has Kaito, I kill their Bowmaster for my trouble. Yep, that's fine. This is potentially going to get stunned. Oh, wow. Opponent does not know what is about to happen. Cool. Force of Will blue card is possible here. Otherwise, this is disgusting. Okay, so play a land. There are instances of Battlecry. Play a land. Swords? Shouldn't need it. Well, Elegant Parlor. This is very good in the short term to let me play both of these in the same turn cycle, but not great long term. So now I have 2 separate instances of Battlecry here. So each one of these is worth 4. I will send one of these at Kaito, that kills Kaito. I will send one of these at face. Triggers. So kill Kaito, take 4. Reckless Pyrosurfer, yo. Strix is fine. I can get that out of the way. Sure. Do I keep the regular land just in respect of it being worth 2 Battlecry triggers? I'm not sure that I do. Also, do I swords this? Maybe I just play Amped Raptor. Let's start there. Trigger another Reckless Pyrosurfer. And they have haste. I think I'm just willing to trade one of these 4 Strix. Oop. Alright, there's more. Bowmasters is pretty darn good here. That can ping an Amped Raptor. Yep. I can lose 2 of these if I let things go through like this. Sure. I think I am just more scared of my opponent sticking a Tamiyo or a Goyf. Opponent keeping these around. Yep. Opponent's at 7. Is it another Kaito? Could be something like Toxic Deluge instead. I think I will go ahead and swords before this is an unblocked attacker. Alright, opponent just lets that hit. And then they can just hardcast the Kaito instead. Yes. So opponent is just going to draw a card with that Kaito, and then I just kill that Kaito in combat. And that's a tapped land, so they're not protecting the Kaito at all. Swords is cool. Send at Kaito for 4, kill Kaito. Kaito's gone. I could see this going either way on the 2-drops here. I think I'm just going to put the bodies into play so that they can attack this turn, but I could see playing Goblin Bombardment so that you can play this and instantly turn it into the Planeswalker next turn. Plus, this is threatening so much damage with any land drop here. That's fine. And I think I'm even going to wait to play that around a daze. Let's just say no to that. This is around any sort of daze or spell pierce effect. And opponent concedes to the bombardment. Hot damn, that worked really well. I do not believe that we won that first game. I'm not sure that my opponent optimized their use of planeswalkers. It felt very free for me to answer Kaito in this match, which is often not really the case. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. If you want to see upcoming sets, if you want to understand commander brackets, or if you just want an awesome place to store all, and I mean all, of your deck lists, Moxfield is the place. You can organize all of your decks by folders, and you can even change the views. You like visual, they've got that. You like text, they've got that. Check out my Moxfield Pro Field if you want to see all, and I mean all, of the decks that I've been cooking up. My opening hand here is solid. I am going to need another land drop to really maximize Ajani into Reckless Pyrosurfer. I think I'm still going to use the fetch land to surveil on turn 1. But it's possible in this deck you want to try to hold the fetch land as long as possible. But I think having the flexibility of surveilling or using Swords to Plowshares is pretty darn good. So I'm going to lead this way. We've got an opposing Flooded Strand deck, and it is some blue-black pile once again. Now my turn 2 might be Voice of Victory to shut off counterspells for the future. But if my opponent already has a counterspell, like feeding an Ajani to one of those is pretty good. I have lost my swords. Well, that could mean a lot of things. I'm not going to read too far into that. Ooh, I'll take that. Is it correct to use it? That is less clear to me, because I have plenty of stuff that I would like to cast. If I don't do this, sometimes I just eat Entomb plus Reanimate immediately. And I do want the third land drop for a future turn for sure. I think I'm not going to Wasteland, and I think I'm going to start here. There's a counterspell. I want it to be on this. There is not a counterspell. That is a Ponder. Ponder is not Entomb plus Reanimate immediately, so I am happy about that. Flooded Strand into another Underground Sea, and a Tamiyo. Sure. I think this now becomes Voice of Victory. So play Voice of Victory around a daze. That one eats a Force of Will. Now I'm going to think about this Wasteland. Opponent takes 1 on the attack. So next turn, I can go Reckless Pyrosurfer, Landfall, Attack, Post-Combat, Ajani, make another friend. Kind of into that. I'm not really into letting my opponent have a Tamiyo and a bunch of mana, but I think my game is just stronger if I don't Wasteland. Sometimes Wasteland is a brain-dead card. It's like, okay, hit the Cloud Post with it, idiot, but sometimes it can be a very skill-testing card in tempo matchups. Now my opponent gets their clue to set themselves up for later, and then is going to transform this into the Planeswalker. Reckless Pyrosurfer actually makes me care about that less, because my Pyrosurfer trigger resolves after the Tamiyo minus does. So my creatures get small, then they get big again. Tamiyo pluses. Opponent's got 4 cards. This is a very big spell. Not only is this damage, but this is also a red permanent for the Ajani Planeswalker side. Damn it! Actively played around that daze. Alright. So this is not getting in for any damage. This is very awkward if my opponent has a daze as one of their remaining cards, but I believe this is otherwise correct. I will keep one of these. Transform, make a cat. Plus, for the counters on the cats, go to Punchies. Punchies at Tamiyo. I deal some damage to Tamiyo. Tamiyo now can't minus on a cantrip. The disaster scenario is perhaps just a Murktide Regent coming down now. That misses. Opponent doesn't have enough mana for a clue. Oh, fuck. That was a reanimate. Sorry, that was a Thoughtseize on themselves. Okay. Guess I'll sacrifice a cat. And goodbye, Plateau. Alright, so we are playing against Reanimator. We find that out a little later than I would like. So I'll drop a Guide of Souls. I will make a cat, which will give me an energy. I will go ahead and make it harder for my opponent to use their resources, but I now don't have a good attack in. My opponent is at 6, but that doesn't matter because they are about to gain 3 life. So this is attacking Ajani. So Ajani is dead no matter what. So let's just sacrifice my Planeswalker and keep all of my bodies. There is another land drop, unfortunately. Tamiyo pluses. And there's an Entomb. Atraxa in graveyard. Is it another reanimate? Fuck this deck. Alright, cool. Days, Thoughtseize, Wasteland. That is a Guide of Souls that will give me 1 energy. The Tamiyo minus is here. I am taking 16 in the air. Alright. So I can do some things to hedge against Tamiyo because Tamiyo is a stupid Magic the Gathering card. I can hedge against Reanimator stuff, and I can play some extra removal. We will turn Galvanic Discharges into Path to Exile. We will probably turn Delneys into Clarion Conquerors. And then I just need to trim 2 creatures to round things out. I'm doing a bunch of other things that are good against Tamiyo. I might do Felia here. That gets me back to 60. I don't think this 1-lander does it. I'm going to keep this. I think I actually get rid of the Guide of Souls here. The Amped Raptor is just a better standalone card for when I get to 2 mana. And I say it like that because I would like to obliterate my opponent's resources if at all possible in this match. Wasteland is fine. Okay, well, that'll do. Guide of Souls into Amped Raptor can potentially be kind of crazy next turn. Although I may end up just wastelanding my opponent. We'll kind of see what happens. Yeah, this feels kind of suspicious. I will just wasteland. That's fine. Then I potentially save a better creature from Fatal Push. Opponent does have more mana. Underground Sea and a Ponder. I will probably just wasteland them again. Like, I have my next land drop secured anyway. And they may or may not. Yeah. Goodbye, Underground Sea. Yeah. Okay, they've got plenty of mana, apparently. I lose Amped Raptor, which is unfortunate. It's also unfortunate that my opponent learns about the Karakas. Say Livy. I'm going to opt to go for a Surveil land here over leaving up Karakas for exactly land plus Tamiyo plus Brainstorm. That is yet another land. That's crazy. Uh-huh. I'm losing my goddamn mind. That's very frustrating. So now Tamiyo is a Planeswalker and does not interact with my Karakas anymore. I don't believe it is correct to play around an exact 3-card sequence like what just happened there. But it is frustrating that it happened. So this is worth 1 damage. And the Battlecry does not change that. I will still go ahead and make this land drop though, so that I am playing around days. Send at Tamiyo. Tamiyo takes 1. Getting another Reckless Pyrosurfer would be cool. Ah, yes, the Murktide Regent that ignores Grafdigger's Cage. Sure. And another land drop. Well, I'll drop a Guide of Souls. It's not doing a lot right now. But my opponent now gets to Tamiyo minus and Fatal Push again. And then we can see a Surveil land as well. Brainstorm. And a Ponder to follow up and shuffle away some bad cards. Or alternatively, a fetch land to do that. Yeah, there's that Fatal Push coming back. That does grow Murktide Regent as an instant or sorcery leaves the graveyard. Murktide Regent does not attack. So I can give multiple instances of Battlecry, but I don't get through Murktide Regent. I'm going to put one of these in play so that I can queue up Battlecry instances for later. And I know Fatal Push is here, so it's not like I can get through to the Tamiyo right now. We've got another fetch. Not for a Surveil land. Cameo pluses. And we've got more selection. This is pretty much the concession point, I think. We've got Planeswalker plus 2 giant bodies here. Delney off the top? No, it's more land. I guess we're playing towards Delney and generating enough damage all at once that I kill my opponent accidentally in one shot, which I don't think is happening. But boy, that can theoretically be a lot of landfall triggers. I'm just going to eat all 10 here. I'm at 9. Do I have one Delney? Or are they all gone? Fuck, they're all gone. Opponent chose Baragoyf with Baragoyf. Alright. Cool. Alright. I don't think I am dealing 19 through Goyf in one go. But let's see if I'm wrong. So we'll do the Guide of Souls trigger first, get the extra energy. I cast an Ocelot Pride. I gain a life. I guess I chill here. At end of turn, I do the whole City's Blessing thing. I don't do the whole City's Blessing thing. Tamiyo can reuse this same Fatal Push yet again. Yeah, I'm going to tap out at this point. It is very frustrating to play against Reanimator, where you stick a critical hate piece on turn 1, and they can play the entire game without being hindered by it at all. GG's. Alright, opponent has said hello. I am keeping my hand here. We'll start off with a Surveil land. We're basically going to keep most cards that aren't lands. I'm going to go ahead and keep that, given the metagame that we are in. There's so much blue-black bullshit running around. Ooh, this feels like combo bullshit instead. This is what the post-sideboard games are for. Pizza 6070 is going to just thrash us in game 1 with whatever variant of Storm they are playing. Okay, that's not one that kills me right now. Holy shit! Wow! That was so bad for them. Wow. Okay. Amped Raptor into another creature is how I put the most damage on the board immediately, which I think is what matters. There are just a couple of cards that this doesn't hit. Reckless Pyrosurfer is literally the card that I imagined when I made this play, because that's 2 damage immediately and 4 more damage next turn, probably. 2 instances of Battlecry on Amped Raptor. So that is 1 land from exile, so the other of those cards don't do anything. Opponent needs something like a tutor or a draw 7 here. Okay, they did find a tutor. So, ooh, there's an echo in graveyard as well. Opponent's fine. So, this is going to get the enchantment, probably? Okay, another Beseech. I don't think there's enough mana in graveyard for Gaia's Will. Oh, LED maybe? Am I wrong? LED into Chrome Mox, no imprint. Then that gets my opponent to 4 mana to Beseech again. Storm is 7. Haven't taken any damage. The Tendrils is here. The Tendrils is not in deck. Opponent says, oh no, I forgot the Tendrils is in the yard. Yeah. Let's see if they can recover. Can you Beseech into mana, or do you just have to, like, echo? Or are they just gonna relay? They have 5 mana awkwardly. Not 6 to, like, Galvanic Relay and echo. Although I guess if they echo, the Galvanic Relay is going bye-bye anyway. Okay, they are going to Galvanic Relay. Stuff that ended up in exile is definitely better this time. Wasteland is cool. I'm not killing this turn, right? 2, 4, 5, 6 easily. Yeah. I'll put this into play. Trigger, make a cat. Trigger, landfall. Go to punchies. Send on in. Do the battle cry. Hit my opponent for 5. Put them to 12. Wasteland them off of a mana source. And I'll have more than lethal next turn with just Arid Mesa. But now we see whether or not my opponent can string together lethal with the stuff that is in exile. Not sure where this line is of revealed cards from previously versus now. I think most of it Okay, there's a Beseech. Okay, there's Song of Creation. This is what I thought was going to happen previously. So I'm just going to F6 here, and I either win or lose. 50-50 shot. Each one of these turns into 2 new cards. So as long as my opponent keeps drawing artifact mana, they can keep going. There's an Echo in Yard if my opponent needs more fuel. There is a Burning Wish or another Tendrils. That'll do. I needed one more turn. I had a turn 4 Goldfish, and my opponent got me on turn 3. GG's. The Wasteland was not enough to do it, and my opponent recovered from not realizing that their Tendrils was initially in their graveyard. So I'll do Grafdigger's Cage here. I'll do Clarion Conqueror here to shut off artifact mana. I will probably do Disruptor Flute to help me get to the late game. I will potentially even do Magus of the Moon, even though it's not very good. I have 6 cards that just immediately need to go before I start thinking about my deck at all. Felia is not the best here. The best that Felia does is blink out Chrome Mox. That's not overly exciting. All the Delneys can probably go here without disrupting me at all. And then I might leave one Delney or one Felia to just round out the deck. I could also just Static Prison and temporarily take an artifact. Temporarily taking an LED might buy me time to get a kill. Sure. Magus isn't great. On the draw, I'll probably get rid of one Magus for another Static Prison. This is medium. I have a Disruptor Flute, which is an okay piece of hate. The issue is that my hand kind of does nothing if my opponent just Thoughtseizes me. I don't have enough land for this to go crazy, and my Magus of the Moon would knock me off my own white mana. I think I'll ship this one. This is a hand that is similar in value to the previous hand. I think on 6 I am not going to be as picky, but this is not crazy. And I think there is a very good chance that this game is fully going to come down to what does Amped Raptor hit. That is a tapped land. Hate that. So we're gonna surveil a land drop. That's fine for this, but this game is not about the damage. This game is about not losing to broken combo things. Magus of the Moon, not fantastic. I think there is a very good chance that I end up casting Disruptor Flute on Echo of Eons in the middle of my opponent's turn. I'm just going to pass here. That is a tapped Surveil land. This is all fine. To use my mana, I think I am comfortable doing a Disruptor Flute here. And we'll make that Echo of Eons expensive. Another one on Beseech. Seems reasonable. Win the game later somehow. Another land drop. Burning Wish, you've got it. Or Beseech the Mirror. Well, good news. I was already planning on naming Beseech the Mirror with Disruptor Flute. So, yeah. Beseech the Mirror. Alright, I did not hit a land to just throw Magus of the Moon out there immediately. Let's go ahead and Amped Raptor or an Ajani. That is a lot of power for 2 mana. Totally happy with that, especially with a Goblin Bombardment here as a follow-up play. So now the biggest worry is some sort of, what is it? Is it Crash or whichever one of these things can hit multiple artifacts at the same time. One of those can be spooky. Magus this turn, or Reckless Pyrosurfer isn't lethal, right? So play this. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, not lethal. Yeah, I think I just play Magus of the Moon. Send it. Opponent's at 15, and we'll drop Magus of the Moon, which makes it significantly harder to Beseech the Mirror. Alright, it's in play. So we have 3 soft hate pieces here. Oh shit, it is a Runehorn Hellkite. So that is fresh 7 card hands for everyone, but mostly my opponent. The Echo is still there in Graveyard, and it is technically castable. It is just very expensive. There is a good chance that my opponent can win this turn through these cards. So I'm F6'd, and if they got it, they got it. What was that? Into the Floodmaw on Magus of the Moon. Sure. So that bounce spell opens up my opponent's colored mana quite a bit, and that is Song of Creation. So now my opponent can turn all of their various rituals and such into multiple cards, and we'll see whether or not they can string together a win from there. So there's that Beseech under there. And we're pretty much to lethal storm count already because I am at 15 life from my Sunbaked Canyon, unfortunately. So if my opponent finds the tendrils, it's over. Stop narrating non-essential game actions, as my opponent is probably going to spin through a lot of things. And this is, I suspect, the thing that kills me. This is Burning Wish now. Opponent chooses a Thoughtseize. Just see what's going on with my hand. Spoiler, I've been F6'd for a while, so I got shit. So that is another Burning Wish. Now my opponent can sack the LEDs, now that they know it's safe, and just get the tendrils. And that'll be lethal. So notably here, I have opted for Disruptor Flutes in the sideboard because they are significantly better versus the One Ring decks than something like Deafening Silence would be, whereas Deafening Silence is just devastating versus Storm, and my opponent can't really win with those in play. Disruptor Flute is easy enough to play around. GG's. Alright, opening hand is fine here. We are probably playing against Yori and D&T or something in that general ballpark. And I'm gonna hope that I just come out of the gates faster than my opponent here. Playing against the IRS, the Innistrad Revenue Service. One of the regulars in my Discord. Bloodstained Mire. Not D&T. What nonsense are you doing today? Thoughtseize nonsense. I don't know what you take here. Honestly, I think it's very dependent on the remainder of the hand. Amped Raptor and Ajani are both insane. Yeah. So I don't get to Wasteland. So we're just going to spin up Amped Raptor. Opponent just says, fuck, everything just sucks for me, huh? It was a good hand, I'm not going to lie to you. Goblin Bombardment is one of the worst hits in my deck there. I'm still going to do it to put that into play immediately without having to spend mana on it, because this can make me much better versus random creatures that my opponent plays out. And I can also just do something like top deck a Pyrosurfer next turn, play it, landfall, wasteland my opponent, battlecry my way to victory. I have not used my Surveil land yet. Alright, let's get saucy. There's a good chance that an Orcish Bowmasters makes this turn a little bit worse for me. Yep. Sure. So my opponent will pick their target, and then I get to go Goblin Bombardment, throw at the Bowmasters, and then my opponent does not get their Orc. So I will deal 3 points of damage here. Is there a reason to hold Goblin Bombardment? No, I'm not a Fable of the Mirrorbreaker deck. I will just resolve another... That's not true. I'll hold up Swords to Plowshares. Yeah, I'll hold up Swords to Plowshares. That's fine. Like, that costs my opponent 2 life. That is a very real cost right now. That is Wasteland fodder. So it seems like we are pitted against Yorion Grixis Control? What? Oh, I see. I exiled it as the one card from Amped Raptor. Okay, then it was just, strictly speaking, not correct for me to fetch. I should have held that for a Pyrosurfer. Whoops. That's not really what I'm looking for. I'm fine wastelanding pre-combat. Sure, so let's change phases. That is a petty theft. You're never going to get to use your Brazen Borrower if you do that. So I just get to go Goblin Bombardment, throw the cat token at your face, then this gets countered and goes to Graveyard rather than being usable as a threat. I'm not sure if I like that line. It may be a I have no choice, I am at 7 health sort of situation. Alright, opponent is continuing to make land drops. That's good for them. Alright, so that is an Edict effect, which means that I will just throw the Amped Raptor at face for a point of damage. And now I have some coverage versus a threat that my... You got a Force of Will? Maybe. Fling to Dust. That's a redraw. The redraw randomly hit a blue card. Actual Factual Counterspell. Opponent is at 4. Yori into hand. Flooded Strand does not do me any good. I'm just going to hold that because of Pyrosurfer. Narset is good. Narset can activate. Finding another Cling to Dust. Sure. Thalia is a totally reasonable thing for me to do on my opponent's turn. I think I will wait on that. Even though my opponent has shown me actual factual counterspell, I think I just wait. Then I play around sorcery speed removal. There is a Force of Will. Sure. This is fine. I maybe just don't play the Thalia until I can play 2 cards in the same turn cycle. Sure. I could also just do it now, attempting to get that Yorion out of hand. I guess the longer I wait, the more bullshit Cling to Dust can do. Let's go ahead and do this. Alright, I do get rid of the Yorion. Alright. Pyrosurfer is lethal. Amped Raptor. I mean, hell yeah. Here we go. Counterspell is not available. Ocelot Pride is fine. There's Cling to Dust. That's for life. And I don't think I need to take any more game actions here. About the only other thing that I could do is play the Flooded Strand in case my opponent has something like Days Undoing that would make me lose this land. Days Undoing without Narset is a bit of a risky proposition, though. That's fine, I have swords for that. I'll do it on my own turn as well. Just to play around Days. I don't think it's necessary to do so, but it's pretty free for me to do so. I'm fine dropping this land here. Swords a Goyf. Go to Punchies. I will still send at Narset. And then send 2 at face. Fantastic. And then I start doing Kitty Cat Parade stuff. And this is just lethal next turn without accounting for Cling to Dust, which will keep my opponent alive. Hopefully I have now exhausted their resources. Culligan's Command. That's going to return an Orcish Bowmasters. Sure. So I will throw Ocelot Pride at your face. Bowmasters does not get to come down this turn. Guide of Souls. Sure. Send on in for 3 points of damage. Opponent is at 4. I'll drop Guide of Souls. I have 3 direct damage to face. So I'm not there yet. I am, in theory, there next turn. Lightning Bolt on Guide of Souls. Sure. Goblin Bombardment. Target your face. Throw this. Lightning Bolt is countered. There's Orcish Bowmasters. That should go at Amped Raptor. I will go ahead and clear the board. I think I will throw Amped Raptor at Bowmasters rather than at face. Then Cat Token gets to get in. Oh, insane. Send in for 1. Opponent is at 2. Play Ajani. And that'll do. We grind out the Grixis control deck. Casual turn 11 game. I had some minor misplays there, like not realizing that my Surveil land was in exile. That's largely fine. So I'm probably not going to sideboard too awful much. I don't know that I want Magus of the Moon here. My opponent has basics and has red removal like Lightning Bolt, so Magus is not overly exciting. My opponent is trying to 1-for-1 me. I think I turned Delneys into Clarion Conquerors here because they are trying to keep my board clear, and so I'm not going to get all of these things that just get to double up on their triggers. I don't think I'm going to go for something like Grafdigger's Cage for Cling to Dust. I'm probably going to play Path to Exile. Goyfs are dumb. I could do what I did before and go down Ocelot Prides because they're bad versus Bowmasters. I could also just kind of ignore some Planeswalkers and play Path to Exile over Galvanic Discharge. I'm already doing some other things that are good versus Planeswalkers, so just being able to say no to large bodies like Goyfs and Yorion matter. This is probably fine. I could maybe go down the last Delney for another Galvanic Discharge if I'm worried about something like Tamiyo spiraling the game out of control in the early game. I'm overall good with this, though. Yeah, this is fine. I can play this game on basics, too. And no turn 1 Thoughtseize or anything like that immediately. I'll go ahead and get a basic Plains. Throw down an Ocelot Pride. This is not the best versus Bowmaster, and my opponent's on the play, right? So, like, my cards might not line up the best, but I'm not going to sweat that in this, like, Yorion deck that is going to be less consistent at having the correct cards on time. It happened here, but c'est la vie. Now, this is the downside of having basic lands, is I can't go Guide of Souls, Ocelot Pride immediately. I think that just means I play Guide of Souls. This is not perfect, though. Grixis colors are online. Looks like my opponent has a Kaito. I'm going to block the Bowmaster so my opponent can't reuse that. Alright, so there is Kaito. So this is slightly annoying. Land? Land would be hot. Not land. I'm going to do the Pyrosurfer here to use all of my mana. My opponent does not know that I don't have the next land, so I think this has to be Force of Willed if you have a Force of Will. So I'll send out a Kaito for 1. This Kaito is going to get some value, and then I will probably shut it off with a Clarion Conqueror or play double Ocelot Pride and go like, I don't super care about the Kaito anymore. But I am already at 13, so you know, is that. That is a tapped land that can search for an instant or a card with flash. Okay. I'm going to just get another white land here. I'll do basic plains. I'm going to throw down a Clarion Conqueror. Sometimes it just eats a removal spell here, but it's insane if it doesn't. It is in play at the very least. Bowmasters is fine. I'm at 11. And Kaito is not currently online. Lightning Bolt changes that. I mean, I get to just try again with Clarion Conqueror, and Clarion Conqueror single-handedly stabilizes the board versus all 3 of these permanents, if it works. Top there. I mean, we're trying this again. Worked last time, temporarily. 2 cards remaining, and there is potentially a good card on top of library that my opponent wants to draw. It's a Brainstorm. Basic Swamp. The opponent can still send in with Kaito. Kaito is a 3/4 creature. Am I just taking this hit? I think I am just taking this hit. I'm at 3. I am dead to the 4th Lightning Bolt. Baleful Strix is good. I'm going to go ahead and put this in play in case I need it. The order of operations is path to exile Baleful Strix so that I can crash in and kill Kaito. Then my opponent gets their island. I crash in and kill Kaito. Success. There's Ocelot Pride number 1. Then I'll fetch. This one has to be a non-basic. And there's Ocelot Pride number 2. Opponent has 2 cards remaining. We'll see how good they are. Sure. Basic Mountain. That is another Bowmasters, killing 1 Ocelot Pride. That turns that into a 2-power creature. That's very inconvenient. That is the 3rd Orcish Bowmasters in a Yorion deck, by the way. There's Yorion to hand. There's Yorion to play. Doesn't that mean my opponent does not have lethal? So didn't they just have lethal, right? They attack. I block. If I block this, I take 2. Yeah. Gain 1. Yeah, I think you just do the attack first. I guess it works either way. And this red land is costly because I don't get 2 swords to disrupt all that stuff. I think I'm more or less good with how I've sideboarded. I could go up Galvanic Discharge to help with Kaito over, like, the other Delney. Delney is kind of cool at pushing through Baleful Strix and friends. Well, I guess that doesn't push through that exactly. This is fine. This is just a pile of Guide of Souls. I probably don't get to use this Wasteland at all. And hopefully that's fine. I really wish this Wasteland was another white source so I could play double Guide of Souls on turn 2. There's Fatal Push. Sure. Felia immediately into double Guide of Souls. Felia, trigger Guide of Souls. That seems fine. I'm going to play Wasteland. Hopefully I don't need triple white all at the same time. I would need to draw another land and then need to use all 3 of these in the same turn. Hymn to Turok. I'll play this. And hopefully I just don't lose both Guide of Souls. I kept both Guide of Souls, but now it's awkward because I don't have 2 white. Never mind. Everything's fine. Fetch. This is a plateau. There is a Guide of Souls. There's a more other Guide of Souls. Yield all energy generating abilities. Let's Wasteland a Badlands. Let's go to Punchies. Let's Punchies. Triggers. I will blink a Guide of Souls. I'll hit my opponent for 2, and then do a Guide of Souls, go up to 2 energy. Opponent hits another land drop. That's good for them. This land is bad for me. Bowmasters is very good right now. I think I'm just going to accept that that is the case. Go ahead and Felia and blink a Guide of Souls. All right, cool. 13. I'll drop this land. Guide of Souls comes back. Now I'm up to 3 energy, so now I can start distributing some counters. 3rd land drop. Got something stupid like Toxic Deluge? You do. Sure. I don't think I come back from that. Touch. We'll surveil. Not looking for that. I'm looking for something like Ajani or Amped Raptor here. Ocelot Pride is not it. I don't need to deal much damage, but I am just out of resources versus a deck that has a ton of 1-for-1 removal. God damn it. It's fucking Culligan's Command. Yep. It's a shame this is like exactly the draw that I wanted. Alright. Sure. Yorion to hand. Sure. Alright, so I am in trouble. It's turn 8. My opponent has 6 cards in hand. I am top decking. And that's not what I'm looking for. It's going to take me a while to lose this game, but I am probably just losing this game. Surveil? That's fine. I'm going to ignore this. I'm not going to double Swords to Plowshares this. I've got bigger fish to fry. I need to respect Goyfs and potentially remove the Yorion when it comes down. And my opponent could hardcast a Kaito anyway, so the mana discount on that is not really relevant. Sure. That's fine. So this is a 0 value Hymn to Turok, because now I just get to cast both of my spells and take out my opponent's Yorion blink targets. That does not make any sense. Alright. Now I'll take this one out as well. Yeah, so 0 value Hymn to Turok. I can get an immediate redraw on this. That is not great. So we're staring at each other. This is fine. I can take 1 all day. That's fine. I wonder if these brainstorms should be happening pre-combat in case you find Kaito. Another land drop. Am I holding that? Or am I playing that land? Am I even casting this? I might just need to cast this. I think my opponent very clearly has a counterspell. I don't know if it's actual counterspell or Force of Will, but they're not tapping out for Yorion. This card isn't that great. I'm going to feed it to whatever spell my opponent has. It should cast Force of Will with 5 open mana? Okay. Sure. I don't think that was worth giving up an extra card for, especially since the Bowmasters can just be a removal spell. I don't think it's going to matter. I think I am already buried. My opponent still has some other counter spell or something that they can cast if they are not willing to tap out for Yorion. I'll take 3. I'm at 10. Alright, so there is the Yorion. That can blink Bowmaster yet again. And I need something like an Amped Raptor here that can generate multiple bodies. Ocelot Pride is not going to do it. That saves me 1 life from a Bowmasters, but that's it. Force of Will pitching Consign. I don't know if you Force of Will this card. It's not very good. But I guess I am taking 8 damage here, so probably moot. Okay, and that'll be lethal between attack plus Culligan's command damage. Alright, we got. The point where we lost was this right here, and it just took another 10 turns for that to actually be realized. GG's. Alright, here we go. We've got another blue-black matchup of some kind. Surveilling a basic swamp into graveyard. Given how much mana I have, I'm totally happy to just snap off that wasteland. Even though opponent just surveilled a land into graveyard, I still think this is fine to do. Alright, cool. That is not a Tamiyo or a Thoughtseize or something that immediately impacts me. I think I am into basic planes here. I know the Pyrosurfer means that my fetch lands are valuable, but my cards are pretty darn good. Daze is fine. And I would like to be able to cast my cards. I might even get another basic planes with Flooded Strand. That I care much more about. This has the possibility of instantly answering the Tamiyo. I'm just going to play an Ajani, though. If my opponent has another Daze or a Force of Will, I would like it to go after this. Alright, opponent does have plenty of mana, but that's it for their turn. Orcish Bowmasters is a thing. The best way to play around Orcish Bowmaster specifically is do a pre-combat Ajani. I don't think I'm going to do that, though. I think I am going to go ahead and just send in, I think with just this. Then Bowmasters doesn't have a chance to kill this. And I think I'm going to try to get my red permanent in play now. Oh, cool. Keep this one. Get my Planeswalker. Am I plussing on cats? Kind of into playing another cat and plussing on cats. Plus. And like if my opponent kills an Ocelot Pride, like, oh no, I only have a Planeswalker, a First Striker, and 2 reasonable sized bodies beyond that. Oh, on the Amped Raptor. Not on the cats that are about to get bigger. Sure. Tamiyo can get a clue. That's totally fine. Tamiyo can brainstorm. That's totally fine. And opponent concedes. Cool. So we're probably playing against some blue-black mid-range pile. I'm probably into more answers for Tamiyo. I think that means these cards. You want to go down on Felia. Clarion Conqueror competing with Delney's spot in this deck is very real. I think I'm going to err on the side of having a lot of removal and go down on Delney. This deck is just meant to be very low to the ground, and while I am fine having some number of Delneys in the deck, and I think they're totally fine, the going up that many 3-drops is tough on the mana, I think, without probably either one more land or a Chrome Mox or something. And I'm going to have a choice between a Surveil land here or a basic for stability. Not sure which I'm going to do. Well, fuck that Underground Sea, though. Opponent does have another land. Thoughtseize is very good. I think that probably takes my Amped Raptor here. That is my highest value card. And I am correct. Nice. I'm going to play this land and pass the turn. This will leave me with the flexibility to cast a Swords to Plowshares or potentially use this as a Surveil land. Alright. Basic Plains it is. I don't want to draw that Basic Plains, so I'm okay just taking that out of the deck right now. Ocelot Pride, sure. I'm going to... Well, maybe I can just play Goblin Bombardment this turn. Let's just play Goblin Bombardment. I don't care if this card gets countered. Doesn't do anything. Yeah, nice. I'm just so far away from that card actually mattering. And now I get to play my next card that I play around a daze. So I think that means I go Voice of Victory. And if this resolves, a daze is not live. Neither is a Bowmaster's. I believe there is 0 reason to do that Wasteland immediately. So now my opponent doesn't have the possibility of using that mana on their own turn, and that wasn't hurting me at all. And just like that, my opponent concedes. I feel like they played that one a little fast and loose. Regardless, GG's, we put up a 2-3 finish in the league. Alright, let's wrap this one up. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Honestly, really good, and probably better than the 2-3 record shows. We played against a lot of blue-black Tamiyo nonsense where bringing in Clarion Conqueror made a lot of sense, so I think that made Delney not get to do the Delney thing. However, Reckless Pyrosurfer absolutely slapped. This card did some wild things, with the best example being match 1, just absolutely ramping up a ton of damage. We, I believe, never drew a Delney at a point where Delney was castable in the entire league. And I sideboarded her out sometimes. I think she is a reasonable Magic the Gathering card, like doubling Guide of Souls or Ocelot Pride or Ajani or Voice of Victory or Amped Raptor or Pyrosurfer or Felia. All sounds nuts. It just did not line up a single time. It is possible that I throw a mana source or 2 more in here, and then we can have Delney and Clarion Conqueror in the game in post-sideboard configurations at the same time. But I'm not sure whether or not that's correct. The land count felt about right throughout the league. I'm super comfortable with the main deck. I don't think I would make any changes to the main deck. I used most of my sideboard cards here. Again, there is some thought of, do I want Deafening Silence versus Disruptor Flutes versus Clarion Conquerors and whatnot. But generally speaking, I like what's here a lot. Kevin, I'm going to give Pyrosurfer 2 thumbs up. That card is sweet. And I'm going to say Delney, I would be willing to try this for another league to see whether or not like it is actually a good card. It is checking all the boxes for me on paper, but without seeing it in action, we didn't see a lot of like, hey, the turn that I play Delney, I'm not actually generating any value out of Delney. Because sometimes you will and sometimes you won't, right? So sometimes you have Guide of Souls in play, Delney hits, Delney triggers Guide of Souls, which doubles up. And then, like, sometimes you can just, all right, that got me enough energy, go to combat, Guide of Souls, the attack trigger triggers twice, and then your opponent is just dead out of nowhere. We'll just kind of have to play another league with Delney sometime to see. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that a lot. As long as there aren't too many sweepers in the world, like your Toxic Deluges and your Supreme Verdicts that can take out a bunch of your creatures at the same time, this one is going to get a thumbs up for me. This is a very, very aggressive deck, which in a combo world is a good thing. Maybe you could make the mana a little worse, get rid of Wasteland, get Thoughtseize and Orcish Bowmasters in here. I think there's a lot of room to play around with this shell. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I've got to try to record one more video before I head to Atlanta. So have a great rest of the day. See you.